Good morning. Thank you for joining VirtualPBX dash admin training. I'm just going to give another minute here for folks to get logged in or to join. The page you should be seeing up on your screen is the dash login page, which is just dash.virtualpbx.com. If you're on the VirtualPBX website, you can get there by mousing over support, and then you'll see the dash login show up underneath on that. So it looks like we are already at 10 o'clock, so let's go ahead and jump in. So to log in, you simply type in your email address. And I think I just made an error there, so let's try that again. Put your password, which if you just signed up, the system creates for you automatically. And then your account name, which is normally your company name. And hold on a minute. Let's try that again. Oh, and one thing I should point out, first time logging in, check your browser to make sure it doesn't capitalize the first letter of your name, as that can cause a login error. And then we'll go ahead and get signed in. And we'll be right here on our dashboard. Now, if it is your first time logging in, the system will come up with the Dash Wizard, and it's going to give you an overview of some of the features. But we're going to go ahead and dive into the whole thing here. So we see here you have your users. Now your Dash plans, they're all based on the number of users you have on the account. So the more users you have, the higher your bill is going to be. Down below that, we have your total devices, and then split up between the types, so soft phone, cell phone, etc. Over to the right, you have your main numbers, and you can have multiple main numbers. These numbers all behave the same way, right? So they all have the same main greeting, they all have the same initial routing. Then you have your fax box number, so you can receive incoming faxes. And you can also have a conference number if you're making use of the conference bridge. And then, hold on, it looks like this is cut off. Let me see if I can. Adjust the size here. There we go. Hopefully that will show up on the screen shortly. Yeah, much better. All right, so total numbers, these are the numbers you have on your account. Every Dash account, you have a certain number of phone numbers included with your account. Anywhere from 1 to 3 numbers are typically included. Once you go over that included amount, you're going to be charged per number. Base rate is $4.99 per number per month. That might be different for if you have international phone numbers. Those rates vary depending on the country. Here you see the assigned numbers and spare numbers. So assigned numbers means they're going someplace in your system, right? They're going to a particular person. It's called DID to a user. Or they're going to a ring group or an ACD queue, or they're your main numbers. All right, spare numbers you're holding on your account, but you're not actively using them. They don't ring to any place. This could be because you're saving it for a future advertising campaign, or it was from an old campaign that just ended, and you want to cut off calls from that number coming into your system. Or you bought a block of numbers and you just haven't gotten to those new numbers yet. But basically, all the numbers here, these would be what you're being billed for. Down below, your US DID, US toll-free, that's a breakdown between the two types. Obviously, if you have international numbers, you would have a third option here. The company directory, you see here it has 11 users, even though I have 21 total users. So that means that for 10 of my users, I opted to not include them in the company directory for whatever reasons. You can change that at any time. And then you have a download link to the right. Your account ID, this is technically your account number, right here on the bottom right. This long alphanumeric string. Now, when you call in to support or to billing or sales, we're not going to ask you for the account ID number typically. We'll ask you for your company name because it's usually easier for people to rattle that off. Below that, we have the account realm. This is used in a couple different things. It's used to program a third-party device or soft phone. So let's say you're using Xlite from Counterpath, you would use this realm information as part of the programming for that application. And then we also use this for sending out faxes. We use email to fax. Basically, you create a new email. In the to field, you put +1 area code and phone number of where you're faxing to, the at symbol, and then your account realm. And then you attach a PDF or TIFF file and send it out. And just make sure it's just one attachment that you're sending out. And then lastly here at the bottom, we have a store discount code. So just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount in anything in our store, which is typically VoIP phones or routers, are the most common things that are up there. All right, up here at the top, we have caller ID. So this is your company caller ID and the default information. This is one of the things the system will ask you to do basically right away. There's a little red banner thing. Hey, set your company caller ID. You can choose from any of your numbers. And then you've got the company caller ID name or CNAME. This is lets you type in up to 15 characters what you want to display as your company caller ID name. Now, 15 characters include spaces and special characters. This is an industry standard, so it's not something we can control. Once you click on save, or save changes rather, this information gets sent to all the other carriers that support CNAME. A couple things to keep in mind. CNAME is not supported by every carrier that routes telephone calls. Some have just opted not to do so. Which means if a call routes through one of those carriers, your company name will not show up at your destination. Even for the carriers who do support CNAME, it's a low priority for them. So, like if they have higher than expected call volume, your company caller ID name not going to go through. Right? If they're having a maintenance issue or worse, an outage of some sort, one, your call may not go through, but your CNAME information will not. Right? Their first priority, connect the call. Second priority, the caller ID number, and then last and definitely least, company caller ID name. Down below that, we have your company emergency address, or E911. This is for your VoIP phones. Basically, if someone picks up a VoIP phone called 911, this is the default address that gets sent. Now, you can change that per device, so that way if you have remote employees, they can have their own addresses being sent when they call 911. And then when you're done, just go ahead and click on Save Changes. All right, hold music. This is your default hold music. So Dash will allow you to upload WAV, .wav files, and .mp3s. These are right now restricted to 1 megabyte in size. So like a 1 megabyte MP3 is roughly 5 minutes long. The main thing to remember is you record in mono, not in stereo, right? So when you listen to this file on your phone, you have one speaker. It's a mono device, right? However, like if you record on your computer, most of the time it's going to default to recording in stereo because your computer typically has 2 speakers, right? Stereo. In terms of how Dash handles hold music is not for when someone is waiting when the inbound caller is waiting for someone to pick up, right? At that point, your inbound caller only hears rings, right? However, once one of you or your staff members pick up and then press the hold button on your VoIP phone, this is the default music that's going to play. And you would click on Upload, find the file on your computer, and then you would click on the little blue and white up arrow icon here to upload the file, and then you would click on Save Changes. And then next, we're going to go over to Hours. All right, so this is part of your main numbers section, but goes right into your office hours strategy. So for a new sign-up, you're put into 24-hour open office, meaning if you have a main number, it's going to ring into your system. Basically, you're ready to start taking calls. You can change this to custom office hours. And then for each day of the week, you put a check that you're open, you put a check mark, right? So Monday through Friday for many businesses. And then you set your open hours in 24-hour time or military time. Fortunately, it's a drop down, so you don't have to remember how to convert it. And then you would click on Save Changes. Since we're here, we'll just go ahead and go to Office Holidays. You can set your Office Holidays in advance. So if you're closed for holidays, you put that check mark up there at the top saying that you are. And then you can add the holidays over here on the right. You have an option for single day, date range, and advanced. So single day would be President's Day that we have here. So I have it set for February 20th. Notice that there's no year indicator. So meaning every year I'd have to change this date or delete it and recreate it depending on how you want to do it. Now, downside of this is pay attention to your calendar, because if you change it the next day, you might make yourself closed for an extra day when you don't intend to. Right, date range, like this one down here for Christmas. So I have it set for December 22nd through the 26th. So for those days, the system automatically puts me in the holiday mode. Now the caveat is you do not want a date range to include New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, right? Because there's no year indicator, the system would just put you in closed. Because it basically says, oh, you're closed all year, is what it's saying at that point. And then advanced is you set a day of the week, a week of the month, and say, hey, we're closed. So second Monday of March, this particular business is closed. And again, save changes. Next up, we have incoming call handling. So this is how your system is going to handle calls that are coming into your main numbers. And then you've got these little sub-tabs, open hours and holiday hours. Now, if I had set the days of the week, then I would have also had an after hours option. Another thing we have actually, oh, I didn't actually show that. Let me go back to the office hours strategy. Right down here at the very bottom, you can choose to be closed for your lunch. So if your whole office or your whole store closes for lunch, you can put check mark here and then put your lunch hours, and the system automatically just puts you in lunch mode. Okay. So now we'll go back in incoming call handling. All right, so you've got this sub-tabs for basically your times of day, and then you've got these three options here. So first option, Call comes in, goes to virtual receptionist, basically meaning you're going to have a greeting play to tell your customers what to press, to how to get places. 1 for sales, 2 for support, or enter 801 for mob, 802 for Mary, etc. Option 2 here, call comes in. You can have it go to a user. You can actually have it go to any number of things here. You got devices, and should have users and ring groups. You got call queues. You can go to a media file, although I don't recommend that. And then you also have ring groups. Basically, the idea here is the call goes in, and someone or several people have a chance to answer that call. If they're not able to, then the inbound caller goes to your virtual receptionist so they can hit a menu option or extension number. Right? So basically giving someone a chance to answer the call first. And then the last option here, call comes in, again, trying to give someone a chance to answer the call. If they're not able to get the call, send that caller to voicemail. So over here, we'll go ahead. You notice that here on the virtual receptionist, this is a link, and it pops up in a new window. So this is where you set up your greeting and your menu options. So menu options, you click on add route, and you can, well, it looks like I can't, but you can add basically 0 through 9 and have them go to a person, a user, a ring group, right, so a group of people, call queue, which is another group of people, but usually so it has different routing options, essentially. You can also have it go to the directory. You can have it go to a particular device, so someone's specific phone, or even have it go to a media file, right? So you have a greeting file. Now, I don't typically recommend having it go to a media file because basically that media file plays and then the call ends. Likewise, call to a device, it just rings that device and then you don't have the full functionality. It won't go to a user's voicemail, for example. Now, if the device has a voicemail box, it would go to that particular device's voicemail. It's like a cell phone. Over here, you've got your greeting options. Text-to-speech, you simply type in what you want to say, and then you click Update, and it's ready to go. Upload your own file. All right, again, you find the file on your computer, and you would click Update. Again, MP3 or WAV, .wav, up to 1 megabyte, recorded in mono. If you already have existing recordings or text-to-speech readings, you will find them here. And then you can just click Update. You can record it over the phone. Now, by default, this is to a VoIP phone that you have on the account. Obviously, we haven't gotten to that point yet in the training. But basically, once you have a VoIP phone registered on the account, so basically programmed and ready to go, you can then call the main number, enter in this PIN code, and record a greeting. Now, this PIN code varies by the time of day, right? So right now, this system has open hours and has holidays. So when I call in, I can only do the open hours, because right now that's what we're in. If I want to do holidays, I have to put my system into holiday mode, then I can call in and record over the phone. The same would apply to after hours and lunch hours. All right. Then we have professional recording service. We have partnered with another company called Snap Recordings. Basically, when you click order, I think it is, it will take you to their website. They have something like 100 voice actors to choose from in terms of between male and female. They have various versions of English. They have a couple of versions of French and Spanish as well. You can do multilingual. They have packages, including, so you can do customized hold music, right? So music plays, and then they read off a script, and music plays, that sort of thing, not just the main greeting. And then lastly, right here, we have settings. Basically, how many times are you letting the inbound caller mess up? Now, if you have a default route in place, which I have right over here. If they mess up, actually, here, right now it's set to 1. So after one try, they don't, the inbound caller doesn't hit a valid option, they'd be sent to my user directory. I don't often recommend having a default route just because robodialers are so prevalent right now. So basically, robodialers, they can't press a menu option, so they'll eventually get to the default route, and that just takes up minutes off of your plan. Whereas if you basically, by having someone have to hit a menu option to get somewhere, you know it's a person. So it's a legit call. And then you would hit save. Now, whenever you make changes to virtual receptionists, you also have to click Save Changes, right? So that's Save and then Save Changes, and that way all your changes take effect. All right, we'll go over to numbers. So these are all the numbers I have on my account, and in this case, these are the numbers in use. So I can see where they're going, what's going on with them, and then the spare numbers that I'm not currently using. Now, under spare numbers, you can acquire more numbers, right? If you select local, enter in an area code, and you click search. And 408 may not return any. Yeah. So when you see this, this usually means that it's an area code that's exhausted, right? And usually that means there should be an overlay, basically several area codes covering the same area. So like 408 covers San Jose, California, and that's why it's probably exhausted. But you can see, and so the overlay for San Jose now is 669. Can do a search. Oh, nothing's coming up for 669. That's different. Oops. Yeah, let's go look at a toll-free. So normally what you should be seeing is a selection of numbers. I'm not quite sure why are none. But basically when you see a number here, you can click add, and you can add multiple, and then click buy, and that adds them to your account. You also have the option here to port a number. So port means you're basically moving it from one carrier to a second carrier. So like say from AT&T to VirtualPBX. This link will then take you through the steps to go through an upload. We need a couple documents. We need what's called a LOA, or letter of agency. This needs to be filled out and signed. And then for a local number, we also need a copy of your bill from the current carrier. And then you can upload directly through Dash, or you can just email porting@virtualpbx.com with the information. All right. So here we're on the users page. Adding a user, pretty straightforward. You have a first name and a last name, an email address. Now, every user on Dash has to have their own email address, right? So Bob and Mary have been sharing support@virtualpbx.com. Well, that's not going to work on Dash, right? You would have to create a new email address for one of them, or you can use a dumb email, right? I could put support1@virtualpbx.com and support2@virtualpbx.com, and Dash will accept that, but then the email it sends out will probably bounce unless I create them as actual email addresses on my server. You create the password, and then you have an option here to create their main extension number. Now, On this system, I started the extensions at 1000, so the next available one is 1019. Right, so the system just put that in, but I can change it. I can make it 2019. I can make it 2532, whatever I feel like. Here's your option to include in the company directory. That's optional. The main one I say you should always do is this one here, send credentials to the user. So when you hit create user, system sends them an email saying, hey, welcome to Dash. Here's your login information, including your password. Kind of helpful. So then once you've added a user, you can click on their name. Oops. You can change their name here. You can change their credentials, their email address and their login and their password. Voicemail box. So when you create a user, they automatically have a voicemail box created for them. If they call into their voicemail box from a VoIP phone on the account, they'll be prompted to enter their own PIN number. Now, if you don't have everyone using VoIP phones, right? You have people using cell phones or landlines, then you as an admin are going to want to create a PIN number for them, and then they can give them that information so they can log in over the phone and then basically check their voicemail. Send to an alternate address. So this is in addition to the user's email address up here. And then again, including company directory, you can choose default that. Over here, this is where you can change a user to be an admin, although this particular interface is not letting me, basically for the streaming software I'm using. The main thing to remember here is if you're the only admin, don't change yourself to a user by accident. This is your time zone. Language, which is basically English, Russian, and French. Ringing timeout. This is basically how much time we send, or how much time we will allow a call to reach out to the user. Right. So we can't control how many times a device rings. Right. That's actually determined by the device itself. We can determine how much time we try to connect to that device. Right. So the default is 20 seconds. Which for a VoIP phone or a landline is typically plenty of time. If your users are predominantly using cell phones, you're going to want to increase this anywhere to 30 to 60 seconds, and that is because it simply takes longer to route a call to a cell phone than it does to a landline. Right? And that's just the aspect of the technology. Right? You have the convenience to be able to move around with the phone, but there's a little bit of lag in terms of trying to get a call to that phone in comparison to a landline. And then you have the main extension number. Users can have multiple extensions if you desire. You just click here to add a different extension number. Users can also have a phone number go directly to them. And this is, again, a DID. So basically this call or calling a number to a user bypasses going through the virtual receptionist, goes straight to this person. Devices, this is how people answer their calls. All right, so new device, SIP phone. This is a VoIP phone. Uses your internet. And then you've got these options here. So find your manufacturer, find the model of the phone, and then you click on the device name. And, why is this? Oh, and then you need the MAC address, which is on the phone itself. And now it's not letting me go back. Oops. That's our chat. Go to our support team. All right, looks like I need to close this. Sorry about that. So after you've added the device in Dash, in terms of any of these manufacturers and the specific models, right, then you would need to go into the device itself, make an adjustment, and we have guides on our website. But basically, you update your phone, you have it added in Dash, you're going to want to reboot the phone, and then it should reach out and connect to us, get the configuration file, and then the phone is ready to use. And you basically can use every feature that's built into that phone as well. That's the advantage of using VoIP phones on Dash. All right, cell phone and landlines, these are basically the same. You give it a name, you put +1 area code and phone number. Now +1 is important. You click on Create Device. And then under Advanced Options, you have a couple other things going here. The first one, allow use of cell phone's voicemail. So what typically happens when Dash sends a call to a cell phone or a landline is when your phone rings, you pick up, you'll hear the system come on and say, "This is a forwarded call. Please press 1." Right? The press 1 is to let the system know you are actually there and can accept the call. Right? So proof of presence, essentially. If you don't want to do that, or like you're sending a call to an automated answering service, you would want to put a check mark here, and then hit Save Changes. But basically what this does is, instead of, you'd still have this is a forward call, but you don't have to press 1. Right? We hear the connection tone, we connect the call. And the reason it's called use cell phone's voicemail is because if your cell phone voicemail picks up, the call will end up in your cell phone's voicemail. Right? Keep original caller ID. So when we're sending calls through to your cell phone, you'll see the inbound caller's phone number as the caller ID. Now, if you find that confusing, or you want to be able to determine, hey, is this a work call, or is it some random friend of mine calling who I don't have in my phone yet, you can just uncheck this. So what that means is when a call gets sent to your cell phone, the VirtualPBX phone number they called in on, right, so one of your main numbers, would show up as the caller ID. So as long as you recognize your company numbers, you're like, oh, okay, this is a work call, versus like a robodialer or spam, telemarketer or something. And then hides from contacts list, just removes it from the user directory. Soft phone, this is a type of VoIP phone. It's just a software application that you use on a computer, or these days on a smartphone as well. By default, you're adding a third-party soft phone. So you would click Create Device, and then you would use, you'd click, give it a name, but you'd use the SIP username and then the SIP password and this realm information to program that piece of software, right? So Xlight from Counterpath, or a VoIP phone that wasn't showing up on the list previously. Now, if you want to make use of the VirtualPBX soft phone, you would just click right down here where it says Use Third-Party Application. You click there. It says, oh, now you're using a VirtualPBX application. You click on Device Name and click on Create Device. What that does is then it emails you, or this user, their login information for the soft phone. Right? It's going to be different than their VoIP phone or their Dash login. And then you just download the app to your smartphone. Now, we do have a desktop version of the soft phone for Windows and Mac OS. However, there's a license fee associated with that, which I believe is $39.99. So you'd want to either order that through the web store or contact our billing team. The web phone, this is again a type of VoIP phone available only on Dash. You put a device name and you click on Create Device. This allows you to use a web browser, and specifically Chrome and Firefox, on your computer to make and receive calls. Right? So you still need a headset and mic, but as long as you have a browser, one of those two browsers, and you use the same login information as your Dash login. So That's pretty easy, right? You already have your email address. You've gotten the email with your password, and then you have your account realm, which is usually your company name. And then you're logged into your browser, and you can make and receive calls, you can transfer calls, etc. And landline is the same as the cell phone. Next, we have features. Actually, let me go over to myself here. All right. So, caller ID number. This only applies to users that have their own phone number associated with them, and they can choose to have that as their caller ID. So basically, when they make an outbound call, the 702 phone number would show up as the caller ID instead of one of the company numbers. All right, so if I turn this off, maybe whatever main company number would show up as the caller ID. Call forwarding. This is for VoIP phone users. The idea being that, okay, typically you're at your desk, you have a desk phone. Now, if you ever lose connection, or you know you're going to be away from your desk, you can then forward the calls that come to your user to your cell phone. The main thing is you don't have the cell phone as a device on your user, right? So you have just a VoIP device. If you have failover mode, basically means, hey, I lost internet connection, or my VoIP phone for whatever reason lost connection, right? Someone tripped on the cable, pulled it out, or just stopped working because it's old. Basically, system says, oh, hey, we lost connection to your VoIP phone. You have a failover mode enabled. You're going to send it to a mobile number, and that's going to be where it's going. Likewise, if you just turn it on, that means you know you're going to be away from your desk, right? Like, oh, I have a day where I'm going to be visiting customer sites. Still want to be able to take business calls, just send it to my cell phone. Hot desking is also a VoIP phone feature, and if you enable it, you give yourself a hot desk ID, a number, right? I usually say just make it your extension number, and then you can choose to have it a PIN. Basically what this does is allows you to log into a phone that's associated with the system. So like if you're in a shared office environment where people can be switching desks from day to day, but they still need to get their phone calls. So basically, you know, on Monday I was at desk 23, so I log into that VoIP phone because I have hot desking enabled. I enable hot desking, so that's on the phone. It's star, I believe 11 is to enable hot desking, and then you enable your hot desk ID. And then from that point on, calls that come to my user will go to that desk phone that I'm at desk 23. Right? Today's Tuesday, and instead of desk 20, someone's already at desk 23, so I go over to desk, 14. I log into that phone, so star 11, hit my hot desk ID, calls start coming to me at that phone. At the end of my day, I believe I hit star 12 to toggle hot desking off. Voicemails, again, every user comes with a voicemail box. Fax mail or fax box, so you can have users have a fax box individually versus just using the main fax box, right? So the main fax box is a general fax box, but maybe you have particular users need to have their own faxing or inbound faxes. I recommend having a separate phone number for this, so that way it's just an extra phone number, goes right to fax. Pretty straightforward. Now you can choose to have it as an extension number, but then what that means is the person faxing to you has to call one of your main numbers. Then they have to enter the extension number, and then they hit start fax on their fax machine. So it's an extra couple hoops for the person faxing, which they may or may not do. I am old enough that for me, when I go to a fax machine, I put the document in, I hit the phone number, I hit send fax, and I walk away. Okay, follow me. This is when you have multiple devices. You notice I have 2 devices here, although this is not set up properly. So you always want to have one device start ringing right away. If you don't, it goes to voicemail. But you notice that this other device is set up on Do Not Ring. I can uncheck that and then I have a slider here. I can also change the order by clicking and dragging. I can click distribute. Up here, I have my total ring duration of 120 seconds, right? 2 minutes. I can change that as well if I want to. And then you click on Save Changes. All right, music on hold. Users can have their own music on hold, and they just need to have you can either choose a file or you can upload a file, and then click Upload. Click Save Changes. And then customize call recording. So if you're going to make use of call recording, so by default, everything is set to off. But then you can choose to have certain ones on, or you can have them all on. So inbound internal means call came to me from another user on the account. Right? Inbound external means a call came to me from a customer, right? Someone outside the company. Right? Outbound internal means I called another user, and then outbound external means I called a customer. Now, let's go to ring groups. So ring groups are basically departments. These have very simple options. You create a group. Let's go. All right, give it a name. Give it an extension number. And then you just click and drag people that you want to be in the ring group. And you click on Create Group. Right, if you click on the name, you can always change the name. And then you have dialing repeats, and there's little arrows here to the right, which might be hard to see on YouTube. But basically, you can increase this. Basically, this is the number of times the inbound caller can try to ring everyone in the group. And then hit Save Changes. If you click on the box under Members, so up here, you've got the total ring duration for the group. You can click Distribute, so everyone has an equal amount of time. You can adjust these sliders as you see fit, so there's more overlap, for example. You can click and drag. So you're like, oh no, I want other people, I want a different order. And then you can click Redistribute again, and then adjust the sliders how you want. Now, one downside about the ring groups is, actually let's go back to the users here, right? So if Jonathan is on a call, right, he took the first call that came into the group, another call comes in, he's still going to hear his phone beep, giving basically like a call waiting beep. The customer won't, but he will. And he'll keep hearing it until someone picks up. Extension numbers, you can have multiple extension numbers. You can assign a phone number that goes directly to the ring group, so like a sales number goes right to the sales group. You also have group features. Okay, call recording. Do you want to record calls into this group, yes or no? It's basically it's everyone or no one. Ringback is essentially hold music for the queue or for the group. So you click on Enabled, and then you upload a file. Now, for ringback to work properly, you want to make sure that it matches this time here for the ring duration for the group. So 120 seconds. Right? If I add hold music, I need to make sure it's 120 seconds long. Next action, if you click Enabled, what do you want the system to do if no one answers the call? You can have it go back to the main menu, or you can have it go to a voicemail box. Allow call forward. This is for your VoIP phone users. Basically, if they're going to be away from their desk, you can say, hey, go ahead and allow them to allow the call forwarding that they set up on their user to apply to the ring group calls. Caller ID prepend. This is again for VoIP phone users. You can add additional text to the caller ID information that shows up on their phone, either text or numbers, and basically just let your staff know what this call is about, right? So if they're in multiple groups or multiple groups and queues, this gives them a heads up. Oh, this is a call about whatever subject. All right, devices. This shows you all the devices on the account. Green means they're connected and working. Red means they're not connected. If you see any phone that's black, that means it's disabled, which means you turned it off over here. You can add the same devices from here as you could under a user. The main concerns here would be the web phone and the virtual, if you're going to add a VirtualPBX soft phone, because you want to add those specifically to the user since they're tied to their email address. This is your voicemail boxes. Most users are going to have, or all users should have their own voicemail box because they're created at the same time. You can also manually create a voicemail box yourself, and the reason you would do that would be for one of your ring groups. And if you ever click on a wrench icon here, greeting media, this allows you, you can upload your own greeting file to a particular voicemail box. Recipients, you can include who you want voicemails from this voicemail box, who do they go to. And then options, basically once you have it with a greeting, you can then choose already set up, and you're pretty much good to go. Over here we have feature codes. So these are tied with your VoIP phones that are on the account, and you can basically, it's like essentially like keyboard shortcuts but for your phone, and allow you to do various features. And then down here we have your call logs. This is the test account, so there shouldn't be too much. But basically, here's your call information. You can click on a log just to see what else is going on. And you click on the little gear icon, and it'll give you the technical details. Now, one thing our engineers are working on is actually advanced call reporting. So like hang-up times, abandoned call report, that sort of thing. I don't know when that's coming, however. All right, up here at the top right, we have the 3 horizontal line icon, menu icon. So we're on the dashboard right now. Next up is queues, right? Queues, or ACD queues, automatic call distribution. These are basically advanced versions of ring groups, right? Ring groups were pretty simple. It's like you're either going to ring to people in order, or there's some kind of overlap, or all at once. Queues, you have some different options here. We'll go ahead and click on it. You can click on it. You can create a name. They can have its own phone number. This is really scrunched. A queue timeout in seconds. Basically, how much hold time. The queue call limit. We usually just have it set to 0, meaning unlimited, but you can limit the amount of people who can be waiting on hold. Timeout immediately if no one is logged in. I've been able to, basically none of your agents are logged in. Just say, hey, timeout happens immediately. Escalation queue. This means like people in this queue were all busy. They weren't able to take the call. You can then send the inbound caller to another ACD queue. Or if you leave that as NA, you can then say, hey, just send it to a voicemail box. Now keep in mind that ACD queues, or queues on Dash, they're $30 per queue per month, whereas ring groups are included as part of your plan. Agent recovery timeout in seconds, basically how much time after they're done with a call do they have to like recover, right? Take a deep breath, drink of water, update their notes. Force away on reject or missed. If you click this enable, basically if an agent misses a call, it puts them in away mode, so they have to choose to put themselves back into in ready status to take calls. An agent connect on timeout, basically how much time you're allowing them a call or ring to an agent before it moves on to the next person. Oh, I think I skipped one. Queue routing strategy. Up here at the top under configuration, you have 4 strategies. Round robin is essentially random for the most part, and that should equal out over time, although at times we've also seen it basically whoever logged in first gets the calls. So I believe engineers are working on tweaking that a little bit. Then there is least calls, meaning least amount of connected calls. Right? That agent, whoever's spoken with the least amount of customers, they get the next call that comes in the queue. Right? Least offered is the least amount of offered calls, meaning, Bob got offered 20 calls, Mary got offered 10. Mary's getting the next call that comes in. Even if Mary's spoken to more people than Bob, under least offered, she would get the next call that comes in. And then most idle, basically who's been waiting around for the call the longest. And then this is just a queue monitor, so you can see what's going on with your queues. Blacklists. Basically, you can create a blacklist to block particular phone numbers from connecting to your system. And you would, right here, can't really see it too well, but that's where it says edit. You choose one of your lists, or you create a new one by clicking add. And then you add the phone numbers. You have +1 area code and phone number. You click save. You go back to settings. And then you click and drag it over. And then over here, again, it's cut off, but you click save. So now every phone number that was on this list is blocked from connecting to the system. They get a busy tone when they call in. So as an admin, if you click on faxes, you can get to any fax box on the system and see their faxes. The main thing you want to look at, though, is the emailed fax log, because this can give you an idea of what happened. Unfortunately, this is cutting off. But there's another icon over here to the right, which you can click to give you greater details about what happened with a particular fax. Recordings get you to the Recordings Manager, which is actually hosted by AWS. User Portal, this is what your standard users get to, and you can as an admin since you're also a user. Right, so they can check their voicemails, they can see their call history, any of their faxes, the contact list, conferencing. So you can add, or you can invite other users on the account to your conference. You can lock a conference. You can mute everybody. You can unmute everybody. You can end the conference. As well as a moderator, if you're the moderator, if there's participants, you can mute a particular participant, for example, or you can kick them out. And then the other thing for users is this is their setting as devices, so they can enable their own call forwarding here, or they can use a feature code on their VoIP phone. And again, you get the voicemails for any user. You can get to any voicemail box. And then lastly, you have webhooks. This is if you're making use of APIs to hook Dash into other software. Basically, you have to be able to program it, though. And that is everything on Dash. I haven't seen any questions come up in chat. I'll stick around for a couple minutes if you do have questions. But beyond that, or if you don't have any questions, I thank you for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful day. All right, not seeing any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Thank you again. Have a wonderful day.